areas you're a bit better at, but have some basic knowledge of the whole syllabus, and then definitely practice the questions. And if you're studying with a tuition provider and they give you the option of sitting a mock paper, I always sit the mock papers. Even though I mightn't be ready for the mock, and I know I'm not ready for the mock, I'll still sit the paper, because there might be one or two questions that you are able to answer, and it will just show you, and you've also got someone else's perspective of correcting it then, because you're always maybe a bit easier on yourself when you're like, oh, I would have said that, yeah, definitely, in the exam.
It was in my head.
Yeah, oh, I was going to write that next. So I think it's good, even if you're not ready for it, and even if you don't get a great mark in it, it's good, it's for you, and it's your experience. Better to make a mistake in the mock than in the real exam.
Excellent. You all three worked while you studied, so have you got any advice for students who are doing that and how to manage the work, life and study balance?
I always try to make the most of my weekends with revision, because I found working Monday to Friday, I would try to do a few hours in the evening, but I set aside my weekends to really put in the time and allocate time to my revision.
Yeah, definitely the weekends. You're too tired in the evenings. You have the best intentions in the world to go home and study, but by the time you get home and you have your shower and you have your dinner, you're tired then. And even if you do sit down and study, you're not as productive because you're tired, your brain is tired. So definitely the weekends. And I would, from the outset then, have a look at what my plans are. So if you've got weekends that you have to go away for whatever reason, or you've got family coming up and you're not going to be able to study a particular weekend, factor that in then, because you have to be realistic. Like, you need to have a downtime as well, and you need to be able to socialise, so you need to factor it in. And I think then it's by planning it ahead. I nearly know, like, no, I can't do such and such that day. I'm studying that day, but then I'll go out for dinner on Sunday. And you have a plan, so you need to be realistic with it.
Yeah, it's always the plan. Just, plan what you're going to do, stick to it. If you fall behind, maybe take some time out, sort of holiday or something like that off of work, and catch up. It's always coming back to this thing, don't sort of get into a panic situation where you're falling behind. Just keep the plan and stick to it with the studying.
And make the most of, like, even an hour. Sometimes I think people think, oh God, an hour I won't get anything done, but I found with actually with P6, because there's such a volume of material to cover there, that even if you did have an hour spare, that just read the material, even read the rules, read the conditions and that type of thing, and it's in your mind then. You haven't totally forgotten it, especially say if you've kind of looked over something midweek and then it comes to Saturday morning, just read over something, do something small, and then when it comes to doing it in more detail, then it's just a little bit more familiar. You're not starting from scratch again.
Yeah, and I agree with that. If you keep it fresh all the time, then it sort of feels familiar and you can go back to it then.
Excellent. Catherine from Ireland asked what study resources you used.
I used the Kaplan tuition book and the exam kit, so I could practice all of the questions and allocate time and make sure I could complete the questions to the time.
For me, it was the BPP textbook, practice and revision kit, and the pass cards. The pass cards are brilliant when you're leading up to the actual exam day, because you can take in a lot from those, and they're really sort of simplified, and visually they're great for remembering things. Yeah,
same. I would be using the study materials provided by the tuition provider. I went to independent colleges in Dublin, and like that we'd have the pass cards, the BPP pass cards, and I would use them too, definitely coming up to the end as kind of quick revision techniques. Like, so if you were commuting on a train or on a bus or that, and you had like a half an hour spare, just reading over it keeps it fresh in your mind. And then I'd also use the ACCA website then for the technical articles. You can also access all the past papers there on the ACCA as well. So if you wanted to go back further and practice those questions, just to make sure you were fully covered. And the technical articles are really useful when you're kind of leading up to the exam and studying as well, to read over, and it will show you kind of maybe areas that you might go, okay, I'll go back now and I'll revise that area. It just makes sure you are covering everything, you're not going to miss one. You don't want to be panicking, so they're all very useful. Try to cover all of them. Yeah,
I think the technical articles cover a lot. And some bits you'll think, okay, I know that, I've learnt that, and then there are other bits, like you said, that you think, okay, I didn't pick up on that, so I've got to go back and recap on that area, so that's quite important. They're really good for the professional exams as well. I use them quite a lot. Yeah, and I find the technical articles good, because sometimes they may just phrase something differently.
to tuition book. So you just kind of have a different, I suppose, perspective of it. And you might just word it that way if you found it just might just relate to you a little bit better, and you might understand it a little bit better. And they might give examples. I know with some of the technical articles they kind of give like real world examples, so it just makes more sense to you then. You can relate to it a little bit better, especially maybe if you don't work in that area and it's definitely all totally new to you. So technical articles I find really good. I would definitely read them all.
Yes, and on the ACCA website you can go into the exam paper that you sit in to see all the relevant ones for that certain paper. So I'd made sure I'd read all of the ones under that title.
I used to read as well. Again, I would do it near the end because you've kind of covered the material then, the examiner's reports from the previous sittings, because examiners will tell you the areas where students are maybe not focusing enough, or like areas that you need to be covering. I think with the tax exam as well, the examiner was fairly new for the exam I was sitting, and they were able to highlight, right, okay, students were good in this area but they were weak in this area, so you kind of like, okay, make sure you know the fundamental areas that are going to kind of be across the syllabus. So I found them very good, the articles written by the examiners at the end after the exams.
I think it's quite important to learn some of it, study some of it, and then go onto the website, because it makes more sense once you've sort of got to grips with it. Because if you go straight in there and look at some of the articles, it can be a bit daunting at first. So it's better to sort of do it perhaps after a month or so of starting to study it, so that you've sort of got to grips with the core syllabus.
Well, they'll be talking about the topic areas and the questions, and if you haven't really gotten a grasp on the syllabus yet, that's not going to make any sense to you whatsoever. So you'll only maybe panic yourself. So wait until you've kind of got a bit of a grasp and then look at that, and then you can use that then when you're going forward. So. Yeah,
and then it sort of reinforces what you know, because as you start to read it, you think, okay, I know that. So it makes you sort of more comfortable rather than panic.
Definitely, you need to be confident going into the exam. Like I would say before you go in as well, like just say to yourself, look, you've done all you can now. Just go in, believe in yourself, just do your best. There's no point kind of panicking at the end. You're not going to do yourself any favours. So kind of go in confident, you'll be able to even you'll write something that you mightn't normally write, and it could be right, and it could get you a few marks. So it's definitely better than going in kind of not confident and panicking.
I think what you have to think is, once you get to perhaps even the night before, you think, right, I've done it now. I've done enough work. I've kept to my study plan. That's it now, I can't do anymore. So you have to think it's sort of up there somewhere.
That's it, it'll come back to you.
And think, I am confident and I can do this.
Definitely,
and not panic.
Don't think about the negatives, it's not going to help.
Be positive.
I agree. Give yourself a little pep talk before you go in.
Well, thank you ever so much. That's all the questions that we've got time for today. For any more resources for exam technique and advice, just look on the ACCA website or keep up with Student Accountant. We'll send you everything that's relevant to your paper. But thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.